Hello and welcome back to Spinal Cast. I'm your host, David Stevens, and joining us today are Zach Foor and Greg Manns. Zach and Greg met at the Recovery Project, a neuro-specialized physical therapy clinic in Livonia, Michigan, shortly after Greg had suffered a spinal cord injury that left him paralyzed from the neck down. Zach is currently walking across America in Greg's honor to raise money to support Certain Steps Writing Workshop, a free 8-week virtual writing program designed for those affected with paralysis. Zach, Greg, thanks so much for joining us today.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Pleasure, honor.
Absolutely. So, today's episode, we're going to keep it pretty simple. Really, I think what we would love to do is learn a little bit more about the two of you, and also about, this incredible journey that you're on and how you're raising awareness. And if that sounds all right to you guys, I'll just jump straight into some questions.
Sounds good.
Do it.
Great. So, Greg, if you wouldn't mind, why don't we start with you? And if you wouldn't mind kind of giving us a background on your injury story.
Oh, that story. It changes a little bit every time I tell it. I think the first minute I got hurt is different than it is now. But I like to use the word Hawaii because I was kind of living out there a little bit. I'm kind of happy for that. I'm lucky. But I was living out in Hawaii at the time just for the winter. Mm-hmm. And I was helping out at a sailing club and the truck wouldn't start. So I went to help start that truck and it started rolling. I was in the wrong place and it got me. So it happened there. And I'm glad I was helping somebody. But anyway, it's changed everything pretty good. So that was 3 years ago, March. And so that's how I got hurt. So I'm a C3 injury, incomplete, as they say, hopefully so. But, I've been kind of in this place I've been in a little bit. I'm strong, I'm healthy, but, I'm not walking yet. But I work on it a little bit every day. So that's sort of my story to point. Yep.
Okay. And, I mentioned it in the opening, but the two of you met at, the Recovery Project. How soon after your injury were you at that, clinic?
Oh, I think it was probably within 6 months or so.
Okay.
So, pretty fresh and, working hard. Is an incredible clinic. Everybody's, just so dedicated and loving. And it was started by a gentleman with a spinal cord injury. So, it's really designed around people like us and is aware of it. And it was a terrific place to stop. It really helped me get going, both attitude-wise, but also physically. So it was a wonderful stop. And that's where I got to meet this amazing, wonderful young man named Zach. So
awesome.
Yeah, good place.
Well, to both of you, and maybe we start with Zach. How did you wind up at the Recovery Project in the first place?
I'll try to tell this story relatively quickly. So I actually didn't go to school or anything for physical therapy. I had an next door neighbor who was a physical therapist at the Recovery Project, and I was in school for journalism, and I basically drank my way out of college and had to get sober. And so I was fortunate to find a 12-step group for that, and I got sober, and I was looking to get back on my feet, and my neighbor recommended the Recovery Project where she worked. Mm-hmm. And I had a sports background, so like physical therapy, athletic training, all that sort of stuff kind of had a nice sound to it. So I started working there as a technician, and as Greg alluded to, like it's just a really special place with a lot of really special people, both clients and the coworkers too. And as he was saying, that one of the co-owners is Charlie Parkhill had a spinal cord injury, and so I just found myself really loving my time there and kind of like the human aspect of that job. Mm-hmm. And there's no coincidence that it brought someone like Greg into my life, and I'm a better person and happier person for having had that experience.
Absolutely. Well, first and foremost, congrats on your sobriety. Believe it or not, I am also sober. I'm going on 7 years in September, so I'm right there with you.
I was 7 this last January, so we did it around the same time.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, exactly. One day at a time, baby.
That's absolutely.
Well, Greg, what about you? How, I know you were there 6 months following your injury or post-injury. Was it a place that was suggested to you by the medical staff from your initial time in the hospital, or how did you come to the recovery project?
Yeah, it was on the list, and I think we were really lucky with a lot of wonderful places to choose from. I think what led me there was that they work hard at maybe trying things that other people might not be as much. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I love traditional therapy, and it's actually what I'm doing more of now. I mean, I do a lot of STEM, but they were kind of leaders in STEM for our region, and so electrical STEM is definitely something that's valued
Yeah.
for people like us. So yeah, I mean, that's what kind of led me there. It was like I think they were kind of in a lot of ways. Well, okay. I mean, they didn't just have machines.
Mm-hmm.
The machines were all scarred up. They had seen time. They're always moving, always running. In other places, they were great machines, but it seemed like it was difficult to get to them and get on them.
Yeah.
But I really dig traditional therapy. I'm a big believer in it, but it's nice to have had that access. That's what brought me there, I'd say. A great reputation in the community. And I think Charlie being, having gone through an experience like ours, he could relate, and he designed a system, I think, around that.
That's huge. I mean, honestly, we've talked to quite a few people who have suffered spinal cord injuries on this podcast at this point. And, a lot of them have great things to say about wherever they started their, therapies and how they were handling things post-op. But very few times have I ever heard somebody say that, it was a place that was put together by someone who had a lived experience, right? And I think that's huge for those patients who are new to it to know that this place was designed and built with me in mind. I think that's massive because it's just not the way the world is for most of it. So
Yeah, well, and I have to add it because I'm not sure what to do now. I'm working on it every day. Like where do we fit? How do we contribute? And what Charlie did was take the challenge in his life and then create something, inspired by that challenge. And I think that's going to be a lot of, life. And one of the great opportunities is, you skinned your knee up and you got up, and then, that often leads to what we can share. And I'm not saying we're all going to open a shop like Charlie did. That's really something. But what might have hurt us and often leads to one of our contributions along the way anyway,
absolutely.
and, so anyway, yeah.
No, I think that's great. Well, let's kind of shift gears here a little bit and get to talking about this walk across America, Zach, that you've embarked on. So how did the two of you kind of come to decide that this was an approach? Or Zach, was this all you're doing, or how did that happen?
So I first wanted to hike this trail. I went to the University of Missouri, and there's a trail called the MKT Trail just outside of campus that runs along the American Discovery Trail. And that's when I first had heard about it. Of course, I was drinking then and just didn't have the resources to do something like that. And then when I started working with Greg, that was just kind of to happen chance with one of the therapists needing my help with him. And through our conversations, I learned that Greg was an outdoor enthusiast and loved backpacking, kayaking, and doing all sorts of those kind of outdoorsy activities. And at the time when I had met Greg, I was having a hard time. Like the idea of walking across America was sort of, I had a really hard time dreaming at that point. I had lost one of my closest friends to suicide at the time. And so Greg coming into my life kind of inspired me to dream again, I guess.
Yeah.
is the best way to put it. And I saw that, how he himself after this traumatic injury was still dreaming, and I wouldn't say that I thought of it in that way as I first met him, but as time went on and we continued to talk and become friends, and we ended up taking a writing class together and just staying in touch, I kind of could see that was what was happening. And he always, as once I told him about wanting to do this, he was always super supportive and often telling me, begin it. That's the hardest part. It's just like AA, right? It's just getting to a room, or it's just taking that first step that is often the hardest one, letting go. And Greg had helped me to do that. So that's kind of how we got to where we are today.
Awesome. So when did you start on the trek? I know when we first got on the call today, you were saying that you were at what did you call it? A trail mom's house, or
you could call her trail angel.
Someone who a trail angel. Okay, so somebody along the path that's allowing you to crash there, and so like when did you actually start out on the trip?
I started March 25th at Cape Henlopen, Delaware, on the Atlantic Ocean. Greg has a cousin named Eric who actually lives in Lewis, which is, what is that, maybe 5 miles from the starting point, Greg?
He's right.
And so he came down to see his cousin, and he was there at the start of it too. So that,
awesome.
It's just one of those things where the universe aligned a little bit.
Yeah, I was gonna ask if Greg was around for the kickoff or not, or if you guys have crossed paths at all in your travels. I'm not sure where you're at currently, Greg, but does your path pass by Greg at all? Are you planning to kind of catch up with him at any point?
I think for now, I think I've seen what I will for Zach for a minute or two. I was lucky enough to go down there, and one of the great joys was meeting Zach's dad, and it's just like, wow, what an awesome man. And I'll just say this because, what I really love about those two, Zach and his dad, is that they aren't afraid to love each other, show love, be there, cry, hug. It's awesome. I mean, I have been really lucky with my dad, so lucky, and that's all been there too. But to watch it happen in someone else's life, that's awesome. You learn that in my circumstance, and everybody who's gone through experiences like me, we know how close we were, and to share love is like the first. When you wake up, you're just like, that's it, that's all, and I get to see it with those two really openly. It's awesome. So so I saw him down there, and then we got to meet him a couple days in. It was raining, so my brother's like, what do you think? We were camping out of my cousins were great enough just to get a hold of me with the a Sprinter van. So we put like a massage table in there. My brother throws me in this bed, and we camp around. And we met him a couple days in. It was raining. We had a giant pasta meal, and that was probably what I'll see of him until, maybe fall, but maybe for a while. See his act, but it was great. And so I'm in Michigan now, so he's not going to be walking through the state.
Got it. Well, I do think you brought up a good point about Zach and his dad's relationship. I actually, just before we jumped on the call today, I got looking through your journal that you've been keeping on your website of kind of your progress and everything, and I read the most recent post, which is talking a lot about your dad and your relationship with your dad. I've through the grapevine, I found out that my mother actually teared up reading that post. So I think that speaks to just how talented of a writer that you are. And so we urge everyone who's listening or watching the podcast. Obviously, we're going to have links down in the description to get you right over to this journey that Zach is on, but you should absolutely check out those bits of writing because they are quite impressive. So kudos.
Thank you.
So as far as the journey is concerned, what kind of progress are you making daily? Are you walking 7 days out of the week? How many miles are you doing? How does it kind of break down?
So I try to do 20 miles each day, and I do try to walk every day. It has not always worked out that way. One thing is for certain is that nothing will go according to plan when you're doing something like this. You just you take it a day at a time. For instance, yesterday I did 15 instead of 20. Sometimes I'll do 25. Sometimes I'll do close to nothing. Mm-hmm. The big thing is just to make sure there are days where you have to stop. Maybe you have I had a foot injury one time, another time I caught a stomach virus, and you're just not moving. But the main thing is to try to continue to make progress, and you just realize it's not going to be like this perfect thing every day. And in fact, it will never be perfect. And then over time, those miles add up.
Right. What's the predicted kind of finish date at this point? Now that you're this far in, do you have kind of a goal set?
Yeah, I'm hoping to be done in fall of 25. I'm going to winter in Colorado. By the time I get to that part of the country, it'll be too dangerous to go over the Rocky Mountains. So I'm going to stay in Gunnison, Colorado, and then I'll be there for probably 9-10 months. And then after that, I'll resume the second half of that trek. So it's really like 2 walks split apart with like an intermission in between there. So the whole thing is going to be like 20 to 22 months, depending on how things work out.
Wow. Serious dedication there. One of the things you mentioned in that last answer was the fact that you had a couple of days in which your foot was acting up or a stomach bug and that sort of thing. I was interested, being this hard on your body every day, day in, day out. How is it holding up? Are you starting to notice it degrading? Are you getting stronger? Kind of where is your body at?
It's definitely, compared to when I started, it has a lot more strength and a lot more endurance. So in that aspect, I'm feeling pretty good about my ability to continue walking. The other side is, miles are still miles. So you do kind of put that wear and tear on your body. So it's sort of a fine balance between asking yourself, okay, is today a day where I push, or is today a day when I hold back? And you kind of are always learning about that. Like someone like myself, I've done some backpacking before this compared to, some people who've done like the PCT, the AT, the CDT. I've not done any of those really large ones.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm still kind of learning a lot, but I've certainly grown a lot in a couple different areas since the beginning, when I basically had no idea what I was doing,
right,
relative to what this thing is.
So when you kind of set out on this walk, I mentioned it a little bit at the beginning, but do you want to kind of give us a rundown as to like what you're looking to achieve and what this is all in kind of in lieu of?
Yeah. So I think I had mentioned that Greg and I took a writing class together. I think it was 2 summers ago, with a friend of Greg's who's also an author in Detroit and a writing instructor. His name is Peter Markus. And Greg had said that he had gotten a lot out of this class and working with Peter. And I found that in my participation in the class, I also was getting a good amount from it, psychologically, if you want to call it spiritually. So that sort of kind of gave us the idea of, well, if this helped Greg in this way, and Greg's always been a really good writer, so he could kind of tap into that post-injury. But even if you don't have a writing background, there's a lot of evidence supporting therapeutic benefits of writing psychologically.
Mm-hmm.
And so our idea with Peter too was just sort of to hopefully emulate that experience for other people who have experienced a traumatic injury that leaves them paralyzed, and also to offer that to caregivers who also go through a great amount of stress and transition during that time, and just really try to promote healing through writing. And Peter kind of just, I really like the way he described writing as a different kind of, a different form of mobility, of movement, how it can move you through the past, through the present, into the future. He's described writing as a psalm or a prayer to your future self. So really there's a lot of emphasis on movement there, and giving people who maybe are limited in their ability to move their bodies another form of movement through their minds and through their spirits, and just being able to open up and explore the world in a way that's really unique for them, and in a way that I think the world needs to hear about. And their voices like Greg's are voices that we need to hear.
Totally. And Greg, I mean, that's a good kind of caveat. Greg, are you doing writing now, or how often are you writing at this current state?
Well, I mean, without Peter, I kind of peter out a little bit. And I'm not in one of his courses at this moment. So, but I do write a little bit, still. And I took some time to try to collect some of the things that I wrote through Peter.
Yeah.
And it's pretty much everything is just from those classes. So I spent a little time kind of assembling that. And a friend of mine from Alaska, I used to spend a lot of time in Alaska. She's helping me put them together. So I put more time into that just recently.
Oh,
just
great.
I like to give it out to some of the people that help me. And so I'm going to print them out maybe and then put a staple in the corner and just say, I don't know if it's good or not, but thank you for all your help. I've been, anyway, so that's kind of what has absorbed me a little bit lately, but I have been writing a little bit lately, and I think all the ways that Zach described it is, great benefit to me. And so I've been enjoying it. Yeah. And I still do.
Awesome. Well, I think that's huge. If you can find benefit in something as simple as writing, it's kind of a no-brainer. And I think your description that Peter provides as to, the value that you can get out of writing and how it can be valuable, it's all in perception. And if you can get yourself to perceive things in such a positive light, that's fantastic. So as far as our audience is concerned, let's say they want to get involved or, have a great interest in this, or someone's recently injured and, are very interested in taking this writing course or whatever. What's the best way for them to get involved and kind of assist you and show their support?
Well, so I'll let Greg talk to the actual enrollment in the class and how we are going about that. As far as donations, our involvement in the cause, you can go to our website and go to which is certainsteps.org.
Okay.
You can either go on the About page, and if you scroll down to the bottom, the donation form is there. If you fill that out, that will route you to our GoFundMe page. Okay. Where if you feel like donating monetarily, you can do that there. You can also reach that same form if you go on the homepage down to the Donate to Our Cause tab. And so that GoFundMe page is ultimately where we get our fundraising from.
Awesome. And 100% of the proceeds are going to basically covering the costs of this class for writers?
Yes. So that money is for the class. And then Peter, so that's for Peter to live off of while he's teaching the class, basically. And then he's wanting to give a third of that to Greg. And I know Greg is kind of hesitant on receiving that, but those are the...
That's not on the list.
We're working on that one.
But we don't have to argue about it, but my thought was that Zach could at least take care of his airfare or something, to share all this. But we'll talk about it all later. That's not on our chop block right now. We just know that Zach's done a lot, and it's important to him that, he's been at some different interviews, across the country, and he really fights so hard to say that, he's doing this in thoughts of people like us, like me. And, I've seen Zach get a little frustrated because the news anchor didn't ask enough about, this mission, and he cares deeply from his heart. So, I think that's important. And, I don't think Zach should, take a hit for it financially, but he says no. So anyway, well, I think what it's about is just everybody, maybe gaining some access to someone who, and what's so special about the program, really, to me, is you don't have to be a writer, and you don't have to figure out what to write.
Right.
Peter's a real master at just these invitations to you to think about something and put a word down or something, and next thing you know, you've got something, and it's not just like I wrote this, so someone else might be able to read it. They're stories from your soul, stories you need to tell that no one can tell but you. And, Peter's really great at it. And, and I like the other idea that, Peter he does a lot of teaching of kids in the city of Detroit, high school, maybe I think elementary school, middle school. And at one point he put together his book. It's called Inside My Pencil. and his words from his students, they're incredible. And these poems and these stories that these young people come up with,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're just like, wow. And, Zach had a great idea of like, if a few people would be interested in being a part of this, and we can put the program together, that, maybe there'd be some words that we could assemble from everyone and put together in something. And that might be pretty fun and really interesting. And it's amazing what's in each individual.
Right.
And, I think we would all love to hear it,
Awesome. Well, Greg, how would, someone who might be potentially interested in participating in the class, how would they go about that?
Good question, because we haven't really totally figured it out. But what we're going to be doing, hopefully by the time this thing would be aired out, is there'll be a place on the website that Zach is taking with a certain steps website,
mm-hmm.
and then you can register.
Okay.
And do it. The idea is to do it. Don't think, well, I can't or I won't be able to find time. Get your name in, and I don't know how many. Just get it in. And then we'll find a way to get a hold of you, and we'll find a way to get you involved. And it'd be great if we had so many that we can't support it. I think that's our goal.
Yeah.
And I think we'll find a way. And let's just, if you have the interest, let's hear you.
Fantastic. Well, I think that pretty much covers all the questions that I wanted to, touch on. Zach, I think this journey is incredible, this path that you're on. But I did want to open up the floor if there was anything else that either one of you wanted to be able to communicate to our audience or highlight. Or, Greg, you mentioned that Zach always wants to talk more about the mission and what he's walking for. So, Zach, I want to give you that time as well. But, yeah, I'll leave it up to you guys if you had anything else you wanted to add.
Well, Zach, I got to start with this. You got to give us one story from the road, man. Just give us a story.
Any story. Let's see. There are so many. Honestly, there are so many stories that happen each day. Part of it is the wildlife and the just all the different animals and terrain that you see out here. And I think when you start this walk, most people probably come out here looking for those experiences, and then you just cannot do this walk without other people, and you end up meeting so many wonderful trail angels, mm-hmm. Who are just so giving, and it fills them up to help you. At first, you kind of feel bad about it, like, am I taking advantage of this person? And then as you spend time with them, you see like how much joy it brings them to be a part of your journey and to help you, whether it's transporting you to and from their house, or maybe they take you to the store or whatever. I've met so many incredible people out here, and I think that is, from my eyes, that's been the most important element of the actual road itself. The lady I'm staying with now, she owns a kayaking business, so I'm kind of my tent's pitched over by all her kayaks, and she's just her name's Nikki. Moondog Livery is the name of her business, and she's just so many jokes and just like just a really kind-hearted person, and always, just similar to all the other trail angels, really, really helpful. And if you're looking for, an anecdote of the road, I could tell you I came across some black bears in West Virginia.
Wow.
They're much more like raccoons than they are grizzly bears, So the second they saw me, they just started up the mountain. I think we scared each other, and kind of ran in opposite directions. And
yeah,
I've seen all otters and bald eagles and all different kinds of animals out here, and it's a beautiful place. We live in a beautiful place, and sometimes I think today it's a little harder to see that in our day to day, and I hope that it doesn't require walking from coast to coast to see that. So I'm hoping that Greg and I can kind of capture that because Greg's writing on the website too, and I'm hoping that our stories can kind of capture the essence of that whole thing.
Awesome. Well, fantastic. I think that about covers it. On behalf of...
I got to interrupt you, my friend. Well,
yeah,
I'm
go
sorry,
for it.
I'm not sorry. No, I think I got to say this. Like this whole story I'm just going to use the word parallel. It parallels my experience because I remember floating down the Grand Canyon one time with this guy who was awesome, Michael. He was our guide, but anyway, he's like, everything's everything, brother, and I never forgot it as a song, but he knew what he was saying. What he's experienced going across the road or, across the country and what it takes for him to do it, is really similar than the journey that I'm on. And I'll say I don't write too much on there, but he has to learn to accept love. And then once he's done that, his life opens up and people want to love. They're there. Like, that's the biggest challenge for a guy like me, is asking for something, being that quote unquote bird, but then also the great things that are going to happen in your life, you're going to feel it in your stomach.
Mm-hmm.
Your heart's going to be out of your chest. Right. I mean, like, this guy's walking across the country. What's that take?
Right.
And when something calls you, you have to get brave. He had to get brave, and if anything I'm going to do after this injury is going to be of value, I'm going to have to get brave. I'm going to have to step out there, and we all know what that's like. And so, I encourage you to read Zach's words. He's an awesome writer. And, we all, I think, can learn and be inspired by that. We could write the book that he's writing, and we just got to live it. And, I think we got to keep going. That's all. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, absolutely. That was perfect. That's a great way to end this too. On behalf of everybody here at MCPF and Spinal Cast, we just want to thank both of you for participating in this and taking the time out of your journey to meet with us and give us a little more insight. Both of you are incredibly inspirational. We absolutely love it. We're going to make sure all of your information is in the detail section so people can come find you, track you, follow you, support you, donate to you, and just really kind of try and take this to that next level. And I do want to do a quick plug. Everybody who's watching us on YouTube or watching on your favorite or listening on your favorite podcast platform, we urge you to give us a follow, maybe a subscription. You could even hit the bell icon. That way, when new episodes drop. But long story short, Zach, Greg, you both are fantastic. And thanks again.
You as well. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Thank you for having us.
Of course. Awesome. Thanks.